Okay, welcome to Units 1 and 2 of Psychology. Today I'm just going to go through in this 15-minute video the bare minimum housekeeping things as well as along with the research methods with you. So, as you can see here, it's exactly the same for Units 1 and 2 at the start, and 3 and 4 have the same chapter, and that's research methods. Okay, so a lot of the time you're going to get the content delivered to you via this system, which is you having your earphones in, listening to this PowerPoint, and then undertaking some activities. It is not whatsoever an ideal situation for you to be in and me to be in, but that's just the nature of the beast, the fact that we've got a combined class with the Units 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 students together, so the Year 11s and 12s together. It doesn't make it ideal, but this is the best that we've got, so please persevere with it. You'll be sick of my voice by the end of, probably the end of rollover, but the end of this year for sure, okay? Here's a funny photo that I usually start any of the PowerPoints with. Lol, I'm Batman. That is hilarious. I would laugh, but I've seen it 1,000 times over. Okay, so who are you? We're not going to worry about this for now. We'll do this when I get back, and the class norms. So, class norms, if you've ever heard of them before or if you haven't. Class norms are simply a set of rules and behaviours that as a class, not just the student, the teacher as well, need to follow to make it both fun and enjoyable and worthwhile. And as well as every single student having the chance to learn in the class, it also allows us to be efficient, it allows us to be positive, and it allows us to get along with each other. Okay? So, just before we continue on, I will always be in the bottom right of the screen. You'll be sick of my face as well as my voice, but studies have shown that if you can see me actually say it, it will sit in your brain a lot longer and it will actually process within your you'll actually remember it and you'll learn it a lot better. Okay, so on top of that, I've got some really good hat hair going on here, and I do a fair few comical movements as well as make some really comical facial expressions. So it'll keep you entertained if it doesn't help you learn. So class norms. This is norm. Okay, so this is the three that we've got here that I always start with. Be respectful of others' opinions and be respectful of others, it should just say. Do not interrupt and have a positive attitude in the classroom. Be respectful. Everything I say, everything I do is underpinned in respect. Okay? If you don't have respect for yourself, you're not going to have it for others. On top of that, if you don't have respect for others, you're wasting your time in my classroom. It really, really, really needs to be said 1,000 times over. Respect underpins everything. And if you're respectful, there's going to be no issues. Do not interrupt, especially in the fact that we've only got 7 people in this classroom. And if there's 7 people in this classroom and someone interrupts, it is a really, really hard thing to keep discussion going. Okay, so make sure of that. No interrupting. You'll have your time to talk. 7 people in the classroom means everyone gets a chance to say what they need to say or want to say. On top of that, have a positive attitude in the classroom. I expect that you walk in. I don't expect you to sit there and be, overjoyed like, yeah, psychology, yeah, we're going to learn about psychology today. I don't expect that every class, but and what I do not tolerate is walking in slumped over, annoyed, or anything along those lines. You come in with a clean slate in this classroom. Otherwise, I'm probably going to give you more work if you sit there and show that you're negative towards what's going on today. And I'll probably take away all the interactive activities that I plan on doing with you, because what's the point in doing it to someone who's going to have a negative connotation towards what we're doing regardless? So make sure you have that positive attitude. It makes it a lot easier for everyone, not just yourself in the classroom, okay? Expectations, alright? So as I've said before, and I'll continue to say it, it's a combined class, which makes it very, very difficult to deliver the content, and we need to make sure that both year levels are gaining a fair learning opportunity. Unfortunately, you get put on the back burner being year 11s as the year 12s become my priority. Because of that, this is where you'll get most of your delivery of content, but still, I will be there every step of the way when you need me, and I'm more than happy to help you inside the classroom, and of course inside the classroom, but most definitely outside the classroom if you need it too. If you need any other time outside, you need to see me about something doesn't make sense, you're just not getting it, regardless of what you're saying, I'm more than willing to make time Please remember that. I'll say it constantly. You'll be sick of me saying that, as well as everything else that you'll be sick of me. But I will make sure that I am available as much as I can, as much as I physically can, possibly. As much as I possibly can, I should say. Okay, so in regards to that fair learning opportunity, it means that 1 year level needs to maintain a quiet noise level at times. So that goes to the year 12s as well, and they know that. They've been through this experience, okay? This can involve studying the textbook or via the use of Eduroll. It says there, but it's Edrollo. We'll have a look at that when I get back, so I can physically show you how to interact with that system. Literally means that there is someone else who can deliver the content to you, okay? I'm not going to just set that and you undertake that the whole time, but you need to make sure that you know how to use Edrollo, because it's very important for the classroom. Okay, as I said, you need to make sure that Edrollo is completely and utterly like the back of your hand. It'll be your second go-to delivery of content. So the other thing that really is important is that you need to keep up to date with your study notes. Okay, so what I mean by study notes is if we're on a certain topic, I expect that you do a certain amount of work outside of class, independently, studying the textbook and making sure that you understand the definitions, you understand everything that comes with that chapter. And in regards to that, that's because I need you to be able to come into the classroom with notes in your head, or notes written down, that you actually comprehend what the definitions are, so that we can utilize that time together. Okay, I don't want to spend all my time with you trying to get you to understand something. I want to spend the time trying to connect it to other things. Okay, so this will show me that you're understanding and creating throughout the term, and as well as that, comprehending the content that we are covering. Okay, now I'm going to give you the next minute or so to undertake this. So what I want you to do is, I want you to get out a piece of paper, and I want you to write down on that why you chose psychology. It can be as simple as it was the best of the worst, the best of two bad things I didn't want to choose. And what do you plan on doing after school career-wise, and what are your aspirations? This will help me understand a little bit more of a background knowledge of why you're actually here, rather than just, teaching you about psychology, because it helps taper things to make it easy for you to understand. Okay, so I'll give you a minute. So grab a piece of paper out now. I want you to write down these three things again. I'll recap. Why did you choose psychology? What are you planning to do after school in regards to your career, and what are your aspirations? So you've got a minute from now. Go. Okay, now that that's done, let's get into the content. All right. So, research toolkit. What do you think when you think of a research toolkit? Okay, apart from that thing right there, toolkit with research in it. All right. A research toolkit is, first off, it's the thing at the start of your units 1 and 2 textbook, which we'll talk about later on, about where it's available in rollover. It's the first chapter. Okay, and it's the first chapter in the units 3 and 4 book as well. They're exactly the same, so you're going to see this twice before you actually undertake, if you stay with psychology in year 12. But what it is it allows every single experiment to be undertaken through certain research guidelines, so that everything is completely and utterly comparable. Okay, The difference between psychology and, say, biology, chemistry, physics, or anything along those lines is it's very intangible. Okay, and what I mean by intangible is it's hard to actually measure. So because it's hard to measure, there's been put a massive focus on research methods, which is a research toolkit. Research methods, research toolkit, interchangeable words for this. Okay, so these research methods are put into place because we need something to be able to compare. Okay, scientists love when they can compare things together. It is very hard to actually observe certain social constructs happening. It's hard to observe whether someone's being supportive or angry at you because we all perceive things differently. So a lot of times psychology is very subjective. So in order to keep that subjectivity at a minimum, we undertake these research methods, okay? Alright, scientific method. You'll see this at the start of the chapter, and the chapter is available on Pickups 2017 VCE Psychology. If you look in there, you'll see psychology textbooks. This online copy is available to you during the rollover period. I cannot give it to you until I know that you've actually got the physical book, because it's not fair on everyone if I gave them an online copy. It's not fair in other subjects, okay? So it's just the way that goes. So as you can see from this meme here, we observe, we question, we hypothesize, we predict. Sometimes that's an optional one, depending on the type of experiment. Hypothesis involves a bit of prediction, but still. Then we experiment, so we undertake the method, and then we collate the results and do something with it, okay? Alright. Variables. Don't worry about glossary entries there. We'll talk about that when I get back. But variables are a massive thing that underpin every single experiment in science, not just psychology. But in psychology, they get really, really, really important. Okay? So, a variable, listen very closely when I say this, because it's very confusing when you hear it for the first time. A variable is a quantity or quality that can be different at different times or in different places. Now that's the definition given by the textbook. It could not be more confusing, so let's break it down. A variable is something that we measure. We measure an independent variable, we measure a dependent variable. But there is also other variables that can affect those things, which make it very difficult to know whether what we're testing is actually true, and whether something else is actually causing this to happen. Alright? Research is based on variables, and in psychology we are mainly interested in the properties that vary from person to person, or even within the same person at different times. So age can be a variable. Alright, we might be looking at the effect of mental illness on teenagers. Now, the effect of mental illness on teenagers. Teenagers is the age, alright? That's a variable we're looking at. We might be looking at the effect of mental health on white Caucasian males. Alright, we're looking at race there. Alright, we're also looking at gender identification because we talked about males, someone who identifies with males. Alright, sexuality. We might be looking at the rates of drug abuse on same-sex attracted people, okay, which is thought to be a lot higher than it is on anyone else, okay. So on top of that, you might be looking at IQ, mental health issues of people who have a high IQ. Okay, so although we've only talked about mental health illnesses through the whole thing there, you can see the different variables we're looking at. Okay, we're looking at age there, we're looking at race, we're looking at gender identification, we're looking at sexuality and IQ as well. Okay, so variables are massive in psychology, and they'll make more sense. Right? I hope that you've heard this somewhere else. If you have not, I need you to familiarize yourself really, really closely with these two terms. An independent variable and a dependent variable. Right? An independent variable is something that is deliberately manipulated or varied in some way. And it can also be continuous. It always affects the dependent variable. Okay? The dependent cannot change unless the independent works on it. Right? The independent don't need no, man. The independent works on its own. Alright? The dependent always happens after the independent. Well, that's what we want to find out. Okay, so as you can see there in that photo, independent variable influences the change in the dependent variable. Now this video is going to cut out, so I'm going to call it there, and I'm going to recap on this slide straight away in the second video. So make sure you familiarize yourself with that website as well, and I'll talk to you in the not too distant future.